Redline Logbook here for Chapter 24 of Wistoria. And we start off where we left off with Will slicing up the monsters from the deep floors. In fact, Will even thinks to himself that he's always cursed this world that hates him, hates the sword, and just doesn't show him any respect, decency, or kindness. But even so, he's never wanted to destroy this world. He's never wanted to see this slaughter happen. Lousty, of course, tells him to target the ones with the swords, the mage killers, because they're the ones that the mages can't fight. The rest, the vast majority of them don't have the sword, and so the mages take care of those. Will understands, and he immediately starts going after the ones with swords. Iris finally starts calming down and realizes that Will is the only one that can do this, but the problem is, he can't do it alone. They need more swords to fight against the mage killers. That's when King Aaron projects an image of himself right in front of her, and declares that she's now in charge, she has his authority, and her first and only order, really, is to get the dwarves involved. She thanks him, and then activates a spell that magnifies her voice, and she declares Gol Vala, which translates to restriction on tanks lifted. Basically, the dwarves are referred to as tanks because they're frontline fighters who use swords and such. First off, the fact that there's even a restriction on dwarves to fight in the first place is really fucked up. Most of the civilians probably think that it's because dwarves are inferior and therefore they have no right to fight. But most likely, it was put in place to protect the swords, so when the time comes for the Great War with the beings from heaven, because the Queen of Mages straight up said that this is a war that can only be won with wand and sword. So it's most likely holding their swords in reserve just in case. But at the same time, it does give the implication that the dwarves are inferior and therefore should be oppressed, which is what happens. Walkins didn't even wait for the king's order. He immediately ran to the bar where Will works, and he starts begging the dwarves for help. And they all immediately say yes. They don't want to help just because it's the right thing to do. I mean, I'm sure they want to. They seem to be good people, but they straight up say they're doing this for Will. Edward, on the other hand, is currently commanding the mages, telling them to target the monsters without the swords and leave the swords with the mages. And because they're currently short-staffed, he even orders the students to take part in the battle. He tells them they don't have to actually kill the monsters, they just have to slow them down long enough for reinforcements to take care of it. As you can imagine, all the students are like, what the hell are you talking about? We can't do that. These are monsters from the deep floors. Plus, they can nullify magic. That's when Lena just pops in, because she's always a frontliner, and goes toe-to-toe with all the monsters. She complains that because these are deep floor monsters, she can't take them down with a single blow. She can take them down, it just takes a while. But that's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue, once again, is the mage killers. Because even though what she does is an enchantment, which covers herself in magic, she isn't launching at the enemy. The mage killers don't just block magic, like Will's sword, it absorbs it. So when the mage killer gets close to her, even if she's dodging the attack, her magical enchantment is literally ripped from her body and absorbed into the sword, leaving her vulnerable. Clennett then shows up, telling Liana that she needs to stop being so reckless. Liana then looks at Clennett and goes, I have a plan. Just do exactly as I say. So the Phantom Agoric that Yagner can produce also gets absorbed. So this thing absorbs all magic. And so Yagner, Julius, and Thawne are currently just blasting at the monsters as they absorb magic. Julius, realizing how futile it is, asks if they should just retreat. But Thawne says no. Anytime they attack with magic, the monsters slow down to absorb it. And then the other monsters that don't have a sword end up hiding behind the monster with the sword. As such, it slows down their movements. So as long as they keep just blasting magic, they can keep the monsters still. This, of course, is going to cause them to burn through their magic power, but the idea isn't to defeat them with their magic. The idea is to get them to stand still, so Clennett can then crush them with the statue of the Founding Queen Mage. Yeah, because the statue wasn't produced with magic, it can't be absorbed, and so it's just a physical object that can be used to crush the monsters. And it works perfectly. Liana's plan was perfect. The students are a little disturbed by the fact that they just used the founder as a weapon. They feel this is kind of heresy. But at the same time, it was the best option they had, so they had no choice. Also, we see an image of this statue multiple times, but we never get to see its face. So most likely, the woman in Will's flashback, when he touched that crystal, is most likely the founding witch, and the story is going out of its way to not reveal that that is, in fact, her. Now that Liana's plan worked perfectly, she then orders all the Earth Mages to take the lead. Now that it has been confirmed that if you manipulate the Earth itself, and not just produce it magically, you can attack with it. Kralawi, I'm definitely not saying her name right, is currently still in the sky, basically guiding the students and everyone who are currently fighting. In fact, she's actually quite impressed by the students, saying that they're a strong batch this year. She's also encouraging them to keep holding out long enough for the dwarves to get there to help. Obviously, some of the students are disgusted by the fact that they have to be saved by dwarves, so yeah, some things never change. Even in desperate situations, some people are still just going to be dicks. We go back to the two assassins who are orchestrating this whole mess, and they're currently complaining that the university was able to get their hands on one of the mage killers, because this time they immediately got the dwarves involved, but next time they won't need the dwarves to get involved, because once their alchemists are able to analyze the mage killer, they'll be able to design a counter to it, which makes the whole thing pointless in the end, which means they would have to move their plans up, and that doesn't seem like something that they want to do, which means they aren't just trying to attack the Magiwanda, they are also most likely trying to get back the broken mage killer that's currently at the school, which would explain why there were demons not just attacking the tower, but attacking the school itself. Their target, of course, is to get the mage killer. The two of them also determine there's also another problem, and that is Will. Yeah, Will being such a powerful sword, being able to just cut down monsters that should be killing mages, that's not a good thing. And they determine that he needs to be taken care of. And so they summon what I can only describe as a cyclops demon. Obviously, it was summoned right next to Will, and so he gets to a fighting stance to take it on. He sees it, he gets scared for a second, and the next thing that happens, it just speed blitz Will and punches him through multiple fucking buildings. I mean, the speed and power of this thing is absurd. Seriously, I would say this thing is on par with Leonowitz, because once again, it just appeared in front of Will and then took him out. Every one of his friends and teachers that were there to witness this freak out for a second, and this monster, this cyclops, isn't done. Apparently, it wants to make sure Will is dead. That is its prime directive, is to kill Will, and it starts going for Will again. Unfortunately, that's where the chapter ends off. But hey, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, give a thumbs up so you enjoy more Wistoria and other many things. Thank you, and have a great day.